players stay out. 3 DM tips. Recycle. Sometimes you prepare an awesome encounter for your players only for them to go in the other direction. Rather than throwing out the idea, just use it in the future. Move your content to wherever your players go. It can be an awesome town that your players missed, or an important NPC that they never talked to, or a cool fight that your players bypassed. Move the unused content in front of where your players are going. Lead with language. Your players will come up with ideas to solve the problems you give them. Some of them are absolutely terrible ideas. While you shouldn't be telling your players what they should or shouldn't try, you can lead them with your phrasing. The players take cues from what to do with how the DM acts. One common phrase that Matt Mercer uses from Critical Role when his players have crazy ideas is, "You can certainly try." You can use this phrase to inform your players that you don't think it's likely to succeed, but you can be sure your chaotic players will be more likely to do it. Another option is staying completely silent when your players are discussing ideas you think won't work, and then speaking up during good ideas. The trick is to question their good ideas, making sure they think out any kinks to the plan. Bad impressions make good NPCs. Creating unique and memorable NPCs is difficult, but being unique and consistent is important for players to remember them. When I need to think of what voice to do for an NPC, I imagine what celebrity would play the character in a movie and do an impression of them.
It doesn't matter if your impression is inaccurate because it's your NPC's voice.
A DM is never bad at NPC voices. He sounds exactly as he means to. 3 tips for running better villains. Don't muddy the water. Players generally enjoy being the good guys, so keep their objectives clear and satisfying. Surprises and twists are fun, but avoid gotcha moments that undermine the player's sense of purpose. For example, if they're sent to deal with a goblin tribe, don't reveal afterward that the goblins were innocent victims. It takes away from their accomplishment. Let players choose who they support, but don't trick them into feeling bad about their choices. Stay active. Villains should be proactive, with clear goals and a plan in motion, and players are reactive to the villain's actions. This makes the world feel alive and keeps the players engaged. A villain actively pursuing their objectives creates tension and gives the players a reason to care, and the villain's actions should also adapt to what the players do, giving purpose to the player's choices. Follow the rule of 3s. Introduce your villains early and often. Players should encounter or hear about the villain at least 3 times before the final showdown. These encounters could include finding their letters, witnessing their evil deeds firsthand, or interacting with the final boss early on when the party is too weak to win. The players might encounter the villain in a situation where they can't confront the villain, such as a magical projection, similar to Emperor Palpatine's holograms. Your players should hate the villain before the final confrontation, making victory more satisfying. 3 ways to get inspired for your D&D campaign. Every DM who has created their own campaign has felt the overwhelming pressure of trying to create a story from scratch. This can often be the death of a campaign before it even starts, as DMs feel the need to create an entire living world before the players even know what they are playing. Here are 3 ways I get inspiration when coming up with new ideas. Look at maps. When thinking of a new quest for my party to go on or an epic fight for my players, I often find inspiration in maps. There are countless maps available online, many of them for free. For battle maps, I find inspiration from Zepeku and 2-Minute Tabletop. When I'm planning a new town or city, I always look at Rusty maps to get inspiration. In my last campaign, I sent my favorite from Rusty maps to my players, and they created their own hometowns. Pop culture. With all the books, movies, and games out in the world, every idea has already been done. But using those ideas as a base doesn't mean your game won't be original. If you use ideas from a story your players have never heard of, they will think you are a genius. If you use ideas from a story your players know and love, they will have a blast living out their favorite stories. Even if you use ideas from pop culture, your players are going to take the story in new directions with their own decisions, so the game will be original. Real-life history. A lot of great fiction comes from real-life events, such as the Game of Thrones series, being heavily inspired by actual European history. Just throw in some magic and monsters, and you can turn real-life events into an amazing D&D campaign. 3 tips to make your game scarier. Horror is a difficult theme in D&D, where the players play as epic heroes. If you want to spook your players, try these 3 tips. Leave it to the imagination. The scariest monsters are always the ones we know the least about. When you are describing a scene to evoke fear, leaving things vague forces your players to ask questions, to figure things out, and you can be sure that whatever they think of to fill in the blanks will be scarier than the real thing. Set the mood. If you play in your normal setting, your players will feel at ease. Try changing the location, or at least changing the atmosphere of where you play. This can be as simple as a change in lighting. Play ambient sounds, like the wind howling or light whispers, and don't forget to take advantage of silence. Use a loud sound effect during key moments, but don't overdo it just for cheap scares. Less is more. Have you ever played the old horror video games? Lack of resources is a huge source of fear. Not only do you have to battle an unknown threat, but you don't know if you have the resources to survive. An overabundance of resources takes away that stress. Horror works best in lower levels, where you have fewer spell slots, fewer magic items, and healing is not guaranteed. If there is ever a time to make your players count arrows, this is it. The further you stretch your players as they face multiple encounters without having a safe way to replenish resources, the scarier it will be. Make riddles more fun in D&D. Solving a good riddle and uncovering the secrets of a dungeon can be one of the most satisfying moments in D&D. Sitting around for an hour guessing the answer to a kindergarten level riddle? Not so much. Here are 3 tips to make riddles more interesting. Flexible solutions. You may have a specific answer in mind, but if your players come up with a logical response that fits, let it work. For example, let's say a door is magically sealed with a riddle. It reads, "I weigh nothing, but even the strongest can't hold me forever." The answer you have prepared is your breath. But if your players make a case for memories or a promise, you could let it work. I usually decide if other answers work depending on how much time has passed. The worst thing is to have your players stuck on a riddle for hours. Environmental hints. The best riddles aren't random. They're part of the setting. Place clues in the environment and let players find them with skill checks. If the riddle fits the theme of the dungeon, solving it feels like real progress, not a meaningless roadblock. Raise the stakes. The riddle at the entrance to Moria was great in Lord of the Rings, but in a game, waiting around with no pressure gets boring fast. Add urgency. Maybe answering wrong activates a trap, or monsters appear if players take too long. Giving players a reason to think fast makes solving the riddle exciting. Riddles should feel like part of the adventure, not a homework assignment. Keep them fun, keep them fair, and keep them moving. If you are enjoying this video, check out my Patreon, where you can get access to original monster stat blocks, awesome magic items, and full adventure PDFs every month. 3 tips for making better taverns. Make your taverns more than just a quest hub and an easy full heal. Memorable name. The name is the first impression the players will have of your tavern. The average commoner is not very smart, so it's not unlikely they wouldn't be able to read. Tavern names often come from the picture that hangs outside. What was the name of the tavern in The Lord of the Rings? The Prancing Pony. The sign displays a pony that is, well, prancing. On top of that, use alliteration to make it easier to remember. Some examples would be the Dancing Dog, the Drunken Dragon, the Grinning Gargoyle, or the Singing Satyr. Make a menu. Unless your tavern has a magical fridge for storing ingredients, the food and drink options are probably limited. While your menu shouldn't be the size of the Cheesecake Factory menu, add a couple of unique items to the menu that fits the region and status. A spiced fish gumbo for a coastal trade city, a fermented sap wine made in a forest town, and the ever so carefully named meat stew for the seedy hole-in-the-wall bar with a rat problem. More to do. A meal in their bellies and a bed to sleep on are the bare minimums of a tavern. Resting often acts as an interlude between intense adventures. Give them a change of pace by adding optional things to do in the tavern. This could be a bit of gambling to make a quick coin, a drinking contest to get your characters sloshed, or a night of fantasy karaoke to sing your woes away. Are you thinking about DMing your first game of Dungeons & Dragons? Here are 3 tips for new DMs. Prepare what you want. Many people tell first-time DMs to not over-prepare. The problem is, there is no way to know what over-preparing is until you try it. The first session I DM'd, I spent hours mapping out a town, planning every NPC, and tried to plan for every potential thing my players would do. Do I regret it? Not at all. When you first start, you don't know what challenges you will face as a DM. Every DM has their own strengths and weaknesses, and after a few sessions, you will learn what you need to prepare and what you can improv. Think about your players. The thing that makes D&D different from other games is that your experience will be completely different from a different table's experience. Even if you play the same module, the DM creates and presents the game, but the players make it their own. Focus on helping them tell their story more than trying to tell some grand story you have in mind. Think about what your players would enjoy and focus on those parts. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I believe the DM has the biggest responsibility of making the game fun. The DM should have fun too, but the DM needs to put in more work and be more considerate than the other players. Just start. New DMs often get the impression that they need to know everything before starting. This might mean memorizing all of the rules, thoroughly understanding a pre-written adventure, or creating an entire living world for your homebrew campaign. Realistically, the players are not going to get nearly as far as you might expect. So, you don't need to know everything about your game. Even veteran DMs make mistakes with rules, but it's important to just keep going and keep the flow.